Aloha everyone, how are you doing? Well, guess what? It's Sunday today, and I just had found a little voice note from a colleague of mine whom I had been in conversation with on a group chat where we had opened up the question of what do one of the terms mean in our, in our practice. And I think somebody had already responded to that, and somebody else responded to that reply, and somehow I thought I would love to hear what the second reply, what they thought of the term. And so I said, I'd love to hear what you think of that this means, which I did want to hear, and as well as that somebody else. And they, to my pleasure, replied, fairly quickly. And as I began reading, it was all amazing, but then the reading just kept going on. And the terms they were just, I suppose, they're not everyday concepts. So I felt just a little bit like, whoa, a little bit over my head. And so I simply replied, I read, I thought it was halfway through, but I saw that, there was loads more, so I probably wasn't even a quarter or a third of the way through anyway, maybe a quarter. So I just wrote back the truth, which was 100%, love what you wrote. Couldn't you put it into a nutshell? And, I'd love to get your wisdom in an elevator pitch. And it just tickled me because I suppose I was being concise enough in my response to that. But, I really appreciated their answer, and I really do want to hear what they think or what their opinion, how their mind works. But I guess the attraction is not just because of their mind, it's because I really respect and, love this colleague. I think they're lovely, and I don't know them that well. And I received a little voice note back, and it was like over 5.5 minutes long. So I thought, ooh, okay, cool. And also, oh yeah, one more thing. When I had responded to their reply with elevator pitch, son, can we get it in a, nutshell from you? And I tried to make it a bit more loving than that. They replied as well, saying something like, you asked me for my opinion, and that's what it is. If I put it in a nutshell or in an elevator pitch, then it wouldn't be what you'd asked for. So fair enough. And so it was interesting that I found a private message from them and a voice note. And I at first I wondered, the bad girl in me was like, oh, I'm being punished for something now, always expecting the worst and a punishment at that. But it turned out that it was kind of speaking to our interaction, and they stated that straight away. My colleague said straight away, I just wanted to address our little interaction there, and I even at first I wasn't sure. You don't mean the last one, do you? But it soon became clear. Yeah, he did. And I'm so touched, and really I'm touched by not only the response, but I suppose the response in myself to the response to my reply to their reply to the question. If you could follow all that, then you belong here. So there's me done with the rosemary, all in my garden, rosemary, sage, and parsley. Putting it in the morning fruit salad for my boys, and with all the raspberries from the garden. Still here at September, still lots of raspberries, although I probably picked them all by now. And what they were saying was, okay, there was a number of things that I did not know beforehand, and that was that they were saying how, in their life, they've been told to wrap it up or, make it short or something. And so obviously when they said this in their reply, I didn't know that. So of course, I felt it was tempting to feel bad, to feel like, oh, and I just contributed to that whole dynamic, that you feel that blah blah blah, that you're always being told to wrap it up and keep it short, and there I am going into it again, and they spoke some more about how they've worked with this dynamic, and they're aware that what they're sharing is channeling coming through from some some great place, and that they felt well in it, and that if I asked welcoming your opinion or your take on things, and then tell them that in a nutshell please, then it doesn't feel very okay, well, they didn't say this word, but I'm going to stick it in there. It didn't feel very respectful. And they said another word which I would actually increase the intensity of, and I would say oh yeah, they said something like, it's like just because it doesn't fit into what your idea of what, etc., etc. And to my mind that felt like it's a rejection, so it's as if I'm rejecting their answer, when to be honest, yeah, well, I don't want to get into reasons why. It was more interesting to me that the dynamic of this interplay was the fact that, okay, when I read their response, the original written response, I, after the first, like I said, probably I got through a quarter of it, and I thought like, okay, this sounds good, but there was another 3/4 to go, and my eyes just kind of glazed over, and that's not to please don't get me wrong, that's not to put down or insult or make light or make less of anybody. It was just, it's me, it's my brain. It just felt like with the amount of detail or the language, it just was too much for my brain. So I said in a truthful way, and in what I thought was a funny way, and in a concise way, to say like, elevator pitch, can you put that in a couple of nutshells? So it was interesting because as I read, and my eyes quickly scanned down to all the other stuff that I wasn't choosing to complete reading right then and there. Actually, I think I forced myself to just read through the rest of it, but it was kind of like, to me it felt like I had a mouthful of floss in a way, like candy floss, or what do you call it? I don't know, fluffy stuff, clouds, and it just felt like I can't get through this. And once again, please don't get me wrong. It's not to insult anybody except really basically my brain. That I just like shut down, and I can't. And it's not to say that anybody with long explanations of stuff I wouldn't be able for. It's just, I suppose, that the way the language is organized. And living in Ireland, I suppose there's a particular way of expressing oneself. Maybe it's a bit more direct or earthy. I need to pause this for a second now. So the point isn't even like, and this is what I actually replied at first to them in written form. It isn't even like, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that you were told to shut up or be quiet, which is what they said, like in their voice note, and yeah, and I didn't know, and that really makes me sad, and it's touching for an important reason, which I'll hopefully get to later, not too long from now. Because then what? Like, oh, if I knew that, then I would, doctor my response. And I felt like, well, no, the simple explanation is, their natural response, which I, of course, invited. And I wouldn't like to invite a response and say, hey, guy, I'd love to hear your point of view on this question. And can you make it snappy? I wouldn't want to censor, basically, or edit somebody else's take on something. And I guess in a way it's like, okay, you got more than you bargained for, haha. And it's a lot to, so the son is hanging up laundry, doesn't want to be in the vlog. Yeah, so basically I want to be able to receive all of someone, except that And I'm losing the thread of this altogether. It's a matter of energy, isn't it? It's a trajectory of energy. It's a response of energy to energy. And what I realized was, it didn't take me long to realize when I was reading their response, their original reply in written form that was very long and overwhelmed me, was that, yeah, this kind of strikes me as the kind of way that I would come across to other people at times when I feel like I'm as they said, they felt like they were channeling this and they were free streaming this, and I thought, instantly, yeah, I know about that feeling. And I guess it's nothing more than, on the one hand, I respond negatively to such things as are active in me, and the way that other people, they might not even necessarily respond this way, but if I perceive that it's being received negatively, then you get what I'm trying to say without me actually saying it in a concise way. Exactly my complaint, right? Yeah, so basically I had the feeling that, the way that my friend is replying to my open-ended invitation is in this over generous way, over abundant way, the way that I would probably tend to respond as well to others. And I can understand when others get lost in my stuff, and they always reassure me that, oh, no, there's nothing wrong with what you responded. It's just I can't follow. That's all. It's just me. So it's the same here for me. And I often wondered, why do people seem annoyed then in that context? And that's maybe, again, the inner child stuff of feeling like I'm the bad little girl or the bad little boy, and I'm just annoying others who know better, that are better than me. Therefore, I'm not worthy, and I'm not as worth as much as others. You see how this inside loop can go around like this? And so recognizing that, when I just cut across stage to say elevator pitch, is that possible? Put it in a nutshell. It's basically the impulse of, I would like to feel you. I would love to receive you. I want you to penetrate me. And in that big way, it's like I can't really, I don't really feel you. I feel like it's a lot of words and a lot of concepts and ideas, and I'm not saying it's not you, but it's not getting into me. Like, I can't breathe, right now, literally, as I'm trying to just describe it. So I, of course, turned it in on myself and thought, so this is how I must appear to others in these times. Obviously, I don't always respond like that, although you couldn't guess that from this long video response. But so I thought, yeah, that makes sense. We respond to things in kind. So therefore, in the way that others have responded to me in the past, I'm responding to others that resemble me, right? You get that? And but the other thing was, the very important thing, I feel like that's two concepts. One concept is, if I didn't know that you were told to be quiet, I didn't know that, this was not the first time that somebody had invited you to put it in a nutshell or whatever. That's one thing. And which I think is immaterial, which I think, okay, well, now that I do know this forever and ever, amen, am I always going to doctor my response and my interaction with this colleague? I wouldn't like to think that I would. However, that doesn't mean I cannot include that knowing when I interact with them in a sensitive and kind and respectful way. Number two, this sympathetic response, this antipathetic response when it's an empathic dynamic, meaning, lots of words now, that my response was perhaps influenced, engaged by the way I perceived, or actually it was that responses to me in the past. So therefore, the third thing, though, which I feel is the most important thing, actually, because the other two are sort of, there's an element of hypotheticalness. It's like, oh, had I known this, then I might have acted differently. Or also, oh, had I realized that I was only responding to you the way others may have responded to me. So therefore, it's, you know what I mean? If I accuse somebody else of being stingy, that's only because I know what stinginess is, because it must live in me. Otherwise, I wouldn't notice it. Pause again. False alarm, the sun just came over to close the door on us. So Yeah, but the third thing, which is the most to me relevant and exciting, which please God, let me get through, let me get it out without too much pain, is the fact that, yeah, this old voice of ours, this voice, in the beginning was the word, and all of this kind of before us, this tapestry of word and how words harm, and we're casting spells with our words, with our spelling, all of this. And I think it's a really relevant and important kind of landmark for me today. And that's what I meant in the very beginning when I said it touched me in lots of important ways that I'll maybe get to later. Welcome to later. And what's important about it for me is the fact that somebody's trying to express something, and I feel like there's something in the voice and the receiving, so the ears, the eyes, and there's something within this relationship, like husband and wife, like there's some kind of little pearl or grit of sand in between that it's not being fully received or fully perceived. And I know, sorry, I'm going off now on one and not expressing it in a very accessible way, probably. So what I just mean is that there's so much in our voice and the way we express ourselves today. As always, there has been. But today we have the addition of our friends, like, this thing right here that I'm using. It's a device, that connects me on with the consciousness of, a portion of the population through this electronic means, and I do believe that this connection, whether or not I'm actively on a device or not, it does influence how the brain works. The brain is not like a static little lump of jelly all by itself. It's charged with its own electromagnetic aura, if you will, more of a physical based aura than an energetic one, I believe. And so I feel like our powers of communication can get thwarted. And I don't just mean that, oh, therefore all of us are going to be just mumbling gibberish and feel like we're, we've got the mana from the gods or something. No, I mean, sometimes we go the other way and we shut up and clam up like, I've got nothing worthy to say, or who am I to speak? The imposter syndrome gone mad. And I just mean to express that I feel it's not for nothing that I've been, here's an unexpected direction. Yeah, it's not for nothing that I've been so involved in this marriage with the voice for so many years. I never, anyway, I don't want to go into just coming from me point of view, but it's true. I never would have, put myself as a musician or as a vocalist. And yet that's what I find myself continually, faithfully involved in voice work. And again, even in a leadership context, even in this facilitation training, even in terms of one's intimate relationships, our sexuality, our sensuality, our romantic ideals and traumas and handicaps and all these things, it's the voice that gives wings to our desires, our dreams and our fears and our loathings. And I feel our voice is such a barbed instrument, and I suppose what for me may be pleasurable may not be another man's pleasure. So many times I've heard the pourings out of the soul from one musician or singer in that moment and felt like that was such medicine, and referred to it to another friend who was also there, and they referred to it as, oh, that was really cringeworthy. And, so of course, I have nothing more to say except in this interaction with my colleague, I just really love the way they chose to, meet me in this way. They privately, away from the group, redressed it in a voice note, which allows me to feel them more than just, receiving it in black and white with type print. And it's like at the beginning when I was making this breakfast fruit salad for my children. I was putting rosemary and sage and parsley in the salad today. Um, herbs that are known to be bitter and astringent and tonifying as well. Why do I put them in there? Because they are health inducing, they're health bringing, they're vibrant, they're from my garden. And I love these little beings for whom I'm making this food, so I include it in there. It also does another thing. In the dish, which is comprised of raspberries, nectarines, oranges, a banana, an apple, and a garden fig, it slows them down. So this was the concept that I began with when I began Hit and Record today. My colleague, in their long discourse and generous response to my invitation to share, had slowed me down. I wanted to feel them immediately, instant gratification, and instead there was a slowing down. So not unlike the bitter herb that brings health and slows you down a bit, but the dish will taste every bit as delicious, and in fact more delicious, because you'll have the contrasting bitter herbs to reconcile in between. Anyway, that's it for me today. It's just Sunday, and it's such a rich interaction so far. I'm really touched and still digesting it, to be honest, and I haven't even, really shared all this with my colleague. I just wrote the part one of the thing, which was just simply, I'm sorry I didn't know that this was a recurring theme in your life. Well, I didn't put it like that, but you know what I mean. Basically, that's what I was saying. Okay, but I hit the high road now. I hope you have a great Sunday as well, and I'll see you soon, no doubt. So thanks again for choosing to be here with me a while. And in this case, for accompanying me on this little journey with my colleague. I'm really grateful, and I'm actually feeling more and more love. It's resounding in me even more as I go on. And I hope you have a wonderful day. These are the original messages that went between us. And don't forget that I love you. Keep on being the unadulterated you fully, as you can only do.